As a neurodivergent kid, I was always looking for a way to manage my emotions. The autism, and the ADHD, and the CPTSD all blended in such a way to make meltdowns and shutdowns a part of my regular life. Things that which not only disturbed my life, but which invited great punishment, which of course exacerbated the whole cycle. So you can imagine how enthusiastic I was to use whatever tools were at my disposal to prevent, if not manage, meltdowns. And into my life, into my little sphere of existence, there came many people who practiced Kundalini. When I was in elementary school, I had a friend named Harry who practiced Kundalini, but it made him cranky and cruel and somewhat antisocial. When I was in junior high school, I saw a therapist, and she was full on into the Kundalini yoga. She wore all white, she wore a turban, whole 9 yards. She was cold and domineering, and when she wasn't those, she was downright cranky. Since my late 20s, I've been exploring with various iterations of energy work. And for all my time, and for all my trouble, and for all my effort, and for all the money I had to pay to learn this stuff, basically it just exacerbated my body pain and it exacerbated my meltdowns. I studied Hindu energy work, secular energy work, Buddhist energy work. And after decades and decades of practice, and not just doing the same thing over and over again, but making subtle iterations, and isolating the variables and exploring the ad infinitum, I found that energy work really doesn't help with the actual emotions, but it can be useful in small doses for vitality and for good fortune. Now, I'm going to flesh that out. One of the cool things about having so many things wrong with my body is that my body kind of acts like a bullshit detector, kind of like a canary in a coal mine. And so I can rate the energy producing qualities of my practices simply by noticing how energized or resourceful I feel after leading class. There are sometimes I can hardly think straight, and other times I'm quite lucid. Another metric is simply attendance. There are some practices I perform, and maybe 2 or 3 people will show up. There's other times I'll do practices the same day of the week, the same time, 20 people will show up. Now, compared to the big boys and the big girls who do live streams, 20 people is laughable. But for Captain Small Potatoes over here, that's something to write home about. And so I've noticed that for instance, there are some mantras I pronounce in Tibetan style, and maybe 2 or 3 people will show up. I pronounce the same mantra Sanskrit style, maybe 20 people will show up. It's mind-blowing. Now, is that causation or just correlation? I don't know. I try not to practice magical thinking, but it's definitely a possibility. I don't want to be so certain of myself that I confidently sprint right off a cliff. I think it's healthy to be suspicious of oneself and not to believe one's press, and be willing to at least entertain the possibility that one is a boob, a fool, a fiend, a slack-jaw, mouth-breathing, I'm forgetting an adjective, knuckle-dragger. Was it slack-jaw, mouth-breathing, knuckle-dragging? Oh, well, you get the idea. So when it comes to energy work, I found less is more and subtle is much more powerful than coarse. So instead of invoking chakras by their Sanskrit names or using Sanskrit syllables instead of visualizing, instead of practicing breath control, all the things that I've experimented with numerous times in numerous ways for numerous years. Instead of all of that, I will simply name a body part, such as heart, or crown, or head, or I'll perform a gesture. My favorite two gestures for guiding energy is this. Puckered palm overhead, or puckered palm before sternum. And if I want to get fancy, I might do all the above. I might do puckered palm at the forehead, both hands palm up in the lap, puckered palm at the throat, both placing at my navel, placing each palm upon the navel. And I think I did it out of sequence. Boom, 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 boom. Yep. And then, of course, puckered palm at the sternum. Those are my 5 favorite tools, but I use them very, very intermittently and very, very briefly. And so what I'd like to do, as is my habit, is relate this evening's lesson to the 28th verse of the source text for Dzogchen, composed by Gaurab Dorje in the 6th century. Please chant with me. For those whose altitude have been sought time, it is not manifest in time. If one practices with an aspiration without being free, the saying on the characteristic of emptiness applies. What? Simply this. If we indulge our controlling tendencies, if we are defined by our desire for perfect health, perfect vitality, great success, great affluence, those pursuits are going to be empty and not in the fun, beneficial way of letting go. They're going to be deeply unsatisfying and deeply frustrating and deeply unfulfilling. And that was, this guy, good old Gaurab Dorje, known in the Swat Valley as Purahe Vajra. He reminds me a lot of Bodhidharma. They're both great thinkers. They only had 1 or 2 students. But their students really spread the word. These guys were just really, really mellow and really, really spontaneous and really, really peaceful and really loving. And part of me, really wants to be that way. But another part of me, sees humanity sprinting towards the precipice. And it's very, very antsy to do what I can to help. It's quite of a conundrum. Would you not agree? And in all vulnerability and all honestness, part of me wishes I didn't have to rely on handouts, that I was just so widely successful that people were just stuffing support in my metaphoric pockets through, PayPal or YouTube, and that would be awesome. But if wishes were fishes, we'd all swim away. And so sometimes we gotta play the cards that were dealt without being fatalistic, but from a place of centered spontaneity, as opposed to being driven mad by goals. There's a line from a song, Witchy Woman, which I first heard when I was in elementary school. And of course it was about cocaine. She drove herself to madness with a silver spoon. But as a kid in 4th grade, what did I know about, cocaine? Nothing. But I got the idea of fixation, of someone being fixated on something shiny and that driving her to madness. Now, I would be surprised if that's what Don Henley had in mind. But in our own lives and in the dramas that we read or watch, We've seen people driven to distraction, driven to desperation by even the loftiest of goals. And we're warned about this in the Tao Te Ching, that it's better to forsake being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, competitive, cryptic, and cruel, and instead embrace being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. That is not just the path to success, but that is success. Living where I live here in America, which is the epitome of late stage capitalism, where it seems that there is exploitation everywhere you turn, employer exploitation, landlord exploitation, mercantile exploitation. It can feel like the path of Lao Tzu might be a sucker's bet. Why, yes, of course, that's just what establishment wants. Lay down, little man. Become a doormat. Let me walk all over you. But the funny thing is that if our choices and our utterances and our deeds truly flow from love's centered spontaneity, a doormat we will not be. We might even surprise ourselves with that which comes about through centered spontaneity. But of course, centered spontaneity is cultivated through an effective and regular practice of mindfulness and meditation. I look forward to chanting and meditating with you in a manner that I would describe as both simple and elegant. After approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. I spent, for more than 30 years, I spent more than 8 hours a day studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. I'd like to begin each session, and it's not just me, most Buddhist teachers like to begin each session by chanting empathetic bodhicitta and enthusiastic refuge. You'll notice that this verbiage is white. This lettering is white, just like a cumulus cloud that might float overhead. This reminds us to place our palms in the hands in the puckered palm position overhead. Together, may I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example and instructions and students. This next version of the same idea is more concise and more figurative, and we're setting this recitation to a bookend chant. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. Together, as a team, let us meditate as profoundly as Qui-Gon Jinn on Naboo. As children, our first bicycle most likely had a pair of training wheels that were effective, though clunky. Similarly, this evening's first meditation is also going to be clunky, yet effective. As we breathe in, we could silently and mentally recite perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. As we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. So tonight's practice is divided into two primary techniques: the seven-line prayer of Guru Rinpoche and the Vajra Guru mantra. We're going to blend the seven-line prayer to Guru Rinpoche with 8 sets of contemplations, 4 pertaining to love and the second 4 pertaining to wisdom. So let's begin with love and letting go. During each inhalation, we can silently and mentally recite a loving intention. Our intentions are categorized, the Buddha categorized the 4 bases of mindfulness as being the mental, the interpersonal, the physical, and the circumstantial. And that's how we're going to operate right now. So we're going to begin with the mental and wish profound, peaceful wisdom for all minds. Because it's much better than the opposite, isn't it? Let's place our hands in the puckered palm position before our sternum. And by the way, in this sadhana, we're using Sanskrit pronunciation as opposed to Tibetan pronunciation. Human organs on upon this northwest rim unload his pistol cup and stem. Wondrous supreme mastery you found, and as a lotus born you are renowned. A ring of many dakinis and circles you, and in your footsteps practicing we follow you. To grant your blessings come we pray Guru Padmasiddhi Hum. Human organs line upon its northwest rim on lotus, pistol, cup, and stem. Wondrous supreme mastery you found, and as the lotus born you are renowned. A ring of many dakinis encircles you, and in your footsteps practicing we follow you. To grant your blessings come we pray Guru Padmasiddhi Hum. Human organs line upon its northwest rim on lotus, pistol, cup, and stem. Wondrous supreme mastery you found, and as a lotus born you are renowned. A ring of many dakinis encircles you, and in your footsteps practicing we follow you. To grant your blessings come we pray Guru Padmasiddhi Hum. Human organs line upon its northwest rim, on lotus pistil cup and stem. Wondrous supreme mastery you found, and as a lotus born you are renowned. A ring of many dakinis encircles you, and in your footsteps practicing we follow you. To grant your blessings come we pray, Guru Padma Siddhi Hun. Now let us remove the first of two metaphoric training wheels and reduce our contemplation from 12 syllables down to just 3. During each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, notice this, and during each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing. Let us continue with the 7-line prayer to Guru Rinpoche, this time working with awareness and letting go. So instead of working with 4 loving wishes, we're going to work with 4 rhetorical questions. Consider the first one. And by the way, the last time we went in one direction with the 4 bases of mindfulness, beginning with the mental and then the interpersonal and then the physical and then the circumstantial. And now we're working with the same 4 bases of mindfulness, but in reverse sequence, beginning with the circumstantial, and then with the physical, the interpersonal, and finally concluding with the mental. Ain't Tantra fun? It's kind of like there's an imaginary umbrella at our heart. And during the love, it's opening. During the wisdom practice, it's closing. How could lots, and remember lot is just a fancy way of saying, it's just a monosyllabic synonym for circumstance. How could lots be seen, yet void? So these are the 2 truths that popularized by Nagarjuna, the truth of mindfulness and the truth of meditation, the truth of noticing and the truth of releasing. Voidness only makes sense when seen through the lens of figurative language. Think of it this way. As we relax into our exhalation, as we relax into the recitation of these 5 lines, the circumstances that we observed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if they were as non-graspable. Notice I used a simile, as if they were as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, what's an example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky in a bright and a beautiful cloudless morn, which, although tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand? Now that we're all set, let's dig in. Puckered hands in the puckered palm position in front of the sternum. Human organs line upon its northwest rim, on lotus pistil cup and stem. Wondrous supreme mastery you found, and as the lotus born you are renowned. A ring of many dakinis encircles you, and in your footsteps practicing we follow you. To grant your blessings come we pray, Guru Padma Siddhi Hun. Human organs line upon his northwest rim, unload his pistol, cup, and stem. Wondrous supreme mastery you found, and as the lotus born you are renowned. A ring of many dakinis encircles you, and in your footsteps practicing we follow you. To grant your blessings come we pray, Guru Padmasiddhi. Human organs line upon its northwest rim, on lotus, pistol, cup, and stem. Wondrous supreme mastery you found, and as the lotus born you are renowned. A ring of many dakinis encircles you, and in your footsteps practicing we follow you. To grant your blessings come we pray, Guru Padmasiddhi. Human organs line upon its northwest rim, on lotus, pistol, cup, and stem. Wondrous supreme mastery you found, and as the lotus born you are renowned. Let's try that again. A ring of many dakinis encircles you, and in your footsteps practicing we follow you. To grant your blessings come we pray, Guru Padmasiddhi. And now we remove the second of two metaphoric training wheels and reduce our meditation from 3 syllables down to just 1. During each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. If as you sit in meditation, you are overwhelmed with physical discomfort, as you breathe in, you could silently and mentally recite the noun form. As you exhale, you could silently and mentally recite the verb ease. We do not do this to get rid of the sensation, but to merely harness its momentum, that we might flow with it rather than fight it. For the remainder, the vast majority of the remainder of this evening's live stream, we will flip and flop between mantra meditation and dzogchen meditation. By the way, if you've just joined us, welcome aboard. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. So for the remainder of this evening's live stream, as we breathe in, we can silently and mentally recite the wisdom's rhetorical question, how relax into the awareness of this. As we exhale, we can physically relax as best we can into the recitation of this 12-syllable mantra. You'll notice that each R is bold. That reminds us to trill the R's, for we are playing with the Sanskrit pronunciation and not the Tibetan one. Please place your hands in the puckered palm position before your sternum. This helps to coalesce the subtle energies. Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri 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 Then let us rest the mind in mindfulness and meditation. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything is crap, including meditation instruction. There are people who fancy themselves meditation teachers, who are so rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel that they will tell you that you're not allowed to perceive, or emote, or intend, or reason, or recall, or imagine. Nonsense. We are wired to do those things. The liberation Buddha offers us. It's not liberation from the presence of perceptions, emotions, intentions, reasonings, recollections, or imaginings, but liberation from their tyranny. Now, the question is, how do we recognize these things without being controlled by them? Through the magic of noticing and relaxing. Sometimes it can feel helpful to move away from the vagary of a demonstrative pronoun and work with something more specific. A verb or a noun or a preposition, with whatever works best. We use the word preposition then for memory, and dream for imagining, and when we experience a physical sensation, we might call that form, and when we feel an emotion, we might label that feel. Our job is not to practice perfectionism, but to embrace the silly truth that life is messy, and it's okay to have a shallow learning curve. And even with a shallow learning curve, it's still possible to master the Buddha's path ridiculously quickly. I'm reminded of a passage in the Christian Bible. Now I'm going to paraphrase. How does it benefit a man to win the world but lose his soul? Remember, at the time that Jesus was teaching, there was no concept of heaven. That was a Greek concept. So they were speaking metaphorically. In the short term, we may be coerced to sell out, but in the long term, it can leave us feeling hollow and empty. There are things we do out of fear or pain or desire for pleasure, but fulfillment comes from walking in integrity, from walking in love's centered spontaneity that we access through mindfulness and meditation. Interesting bit of trivia: in Jesus' day, Guyana, which we translate as hell, was just a garbage dump outside of Jerusalem. So, in other words, there's a way to live your life that feels like you're living in the presence of God. And there's another way of living your life that feels like you're living in the presence of garbage. Umahumvarara Guru Manmaziri 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 Oh, Butterfingers. Om Aum Vajraguru Manmaziri 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 Om Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Ahum Vajraguru Manmaziri Om Omahu Varara Guru Mamaziri 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 Om Vararo 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 Guru Mamaziri Om Om Vararo Guru Mamaziri 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 Om Vararo Guru Mamaziri
Guru Manmaziri Varara 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 Guru Manmaziri Omahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Omahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Omahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Omahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Omahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Omahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Omahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Omahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Umahu Vararaguru Manmaziri Om Vararo Guru 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 Manmaziri Om Varara 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 Guru Manmaziri
Let us seal our practice with a bit of the old loving kindness. Puckered palms overhead. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. May all beings practice of May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from misery, may everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 and 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.